Courtside of the virtual hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast. This is episode number 446. I am Andrew in our forum, and Andrew NLSC on Twitter. With me, as always, is my co-host Derek. He is D3 in our forum and D384 on Twitter. That being said, Derek, we're not alone today. In fact, we have some returning guests.
So exciting. So I go and check the mail the other day, and I have two packages, both from Roger. In one, a Walter McCarty photo where he's skying for an oop in a Celtics uniform, and it's signed by Walter McCarty himself. And in the other package, it was a frame for the photo. So to Roger, thank you for everything. I love it. To Nate, thanks for nothing. But to both, back to the show.
I asked him to split the price with me, but he wouldn't go more than $5. So I just took care of it on that end.
I think the content I create is well worth the price.
Nate, you entertain me to no end with the uploads, YouTube uploads, whether it be Madden or NBA Live 2001 or Live 2005, etc., which you guys are super into right now. But I do want to thank you both for not only, supporting the show, but also, uploading great content, and then also supporting Andrew and I in general. I thought that was a great gift, Roger, and you guys are awesome.
Well, absolutely. We appreciate the little gift box that you sent us with, NBA Live 08, 09, 10, and we had some fun with Shootout too. So that gave us a lot of couple hours of, some new games that we've never experienced before. So I just wanted to send a little thank you your way.
Yeah, you didn't appreciate Mike Bibby, though, and Bobby Jackson throwing it down like Vince Carter in Shootout 2004. I know that. Everybody
can dunk in Shootout 01 and 04. It was scary. Bobby Jackson going baseline, little 6'2" dude, and just cramming on Shaq. That was unexpected, but we dealt with it.
Get a lot of these old heads wanting realism in a basketball game.
It's asking a lot.
I know, old heads. No, we love it. We do love your content. I do love that you keep Live 2001 alive. As someone who has stuck with games for years, obviously, I really do admire that, as I've said before. And yes, I do love to see your reactions as well, because I know you put those up these days. And just seeing the top 10 this week, hitting that half-court shot with Andre Miller, that was special.
Roger, it's the hand. It's you mimicking the ref.
Yes.
It makes the whole highlight. So when the ref does the whole follow through, like it counts type thing, and then you do it at the same time, like that's it. Like that elevated you in the top 10. It actually pushed you up further.
Yeah. That was definitely the highlight of the my second half, because I definitely crumbled in that game after halftime. So that was peak Denver Nuggets right there.
That was backbreaking when you made that.
I couldn't hit a three with Andre Miller the entire second half, which I shouldn't have been shooting anyway. But of course, I make a contested, leaning forward half-court shot to end it. But yeah, that was that was an interesting shot.
Andre Miller, the famous player who scored 50 points with no threes made. Just all twos, all little mid-range shots, post-ups and whatnot.
That was, talk about, having a bag. Andre Miller could do it all, from within the three-point line. Post-up, smaller guards, fadeaways, mid-range. He was deadly later in his career.
The most threes he ever made in a season was 23 when he played that 1 year in the Clippers. So did not shoot threes that much.
Now I feel like an idiot for taking all those threes.
Do you guys remember, and Andrew, I bet you definitely remember this, but do you guys remember when Yao Ming was first, being talked about, coming to the NBA and whatnot? Do you guys remember the footage that they would share on like ESPN and et cetera, where Yao Ming was like hitting threes and hitting super deep twos, and they were talking about him having like all of this range and that he was going to be able to be like a stretch five? Do you remember that?
I do.
I do remember all the hype of him coming into the league, but I don't remember the Chinese propaganda.
It was nuts. Andrew, you said you remembered, but like the way they were talking about him and the way they were showcasing him, you were going to be like, all right, this is going to be like a 7'6" Rasheed Wallace that's coming into the league, who's going to be able to stretch you out. And they did the same thing with Darko Milicic. Then when
the
both
Darko
of
hype,
them,
yes.
Oh my God, the Darko hype with his range and all that stuff. And then both of them get to the NBA and both of them like never take a shot outside of 15 feet. or 10 feet. Like,
I mean,
just
at least
stay in
Yao
those
lived up to
areas.
the hype. He lived up to a lot of the other hype that that came with him. But I remember it distinctly because a lot of video games around about that time, if you look at Live 2003, even through to around about 08, you'll see his 3-point rating is really inflated. Like, they were expecting him to just break out and be Dirk, essentially, by that time. And they just never really touched his ratings, just always there at enough to, if you wanted to shoot with him, you could probably make more threes than Andre Miller, in fact.
I remember him being good at threes for some reason. When we revisited 04 and 05, I was not afraid to shoot some threes with Yao, and I was surprised I didn't make any. He only made 2 in his career, but he was so good at free throws, and he had some range that everybody thought he could shoot threes.
Yeah, I think that's the struggle sometimes video game making, right? Right, that, like, what do you do with a player who's up and coming and you have all of that hype? How do you, like, wrangle that in, basically, and make the player realistic and not just go off of all the hype? And that's got to be tough.
Yeah, the Jonathan Bender and Stromile Swift conundrum.
Great examples. Great examples.
I love the Stro show. Absolutely love Stromile Swift. Love those big dunkers in video games and in real life. Even if they average like 4 points per game, like out of those 4 points per game, like one of those dunks, one of those baskets is like a huge dunk, and it was exciting.
Yeah, he's definitely still a problem. Like, we've been playing 2005 a lot, NBA Live 2005, that is, and Stromile is just throwing down nasty dunks constantly.
Stromile led your team in points and rebounds that one game when you lost Pau Gasol to an injury, and Stromile came in and quietly just picked up all the slack.
Yeah, the 2005 Grizzlies team on Live 05 is really good. Like, not like a superstar per se, but they're deep and they got some quality bigs.
Every wing can like shoot threes and play defense.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Miller, Bonzi Wells, James Posey.
James Posey is another one of those sneaky 3-point shooters.
Like the original 3 and D from the early 2000s.
Yeah, I feel like 3 and D wasn't like a term until like the early 2000s. When
I feel like it wasn't a term until maybe the 2010s. No, I think Bruce Bowen may have been like the first 3 and D to the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, James Posey has a
I think
nickname.
that's fair. Bruce
James,
Bowen, yeah.
That's super fair. Yeah, that's super fair. James Posey, we actually have a nickname for in our house. He's called 3 Things. And the reason why is because in the early 2000s NBA Lives, and I think Live 2004 was one of them, he had not 1, not 2, but 3 special icons next to his name. He had the defensive lock, he had the 3-pointer, and the other, he had the slasher. I think that's what it was.
The dunking shoe, yeah. The
dunking shoe, right. So he had 3, and we used to make fun of it because we're like, James Posey's not like this super special player. He was he was just like a role player and whatnot. But he was so good in those games because he had all of these like special abilities, and they treated him like he was like a star.
I liked how they had those icons in those early games, especially as a kid, because it was so easy to just recognize what these people are good at. And like the 3 icons, I remember looking at 04 recently, Posey, Tracy McGrady, Ben Wallace had 3 icons. And I can't think of anyone else. Maybe Kobe might have had 3.
Well, that's the thing, Nate. It was so rare, right? And then you look at a guy like James Posey and he has them. Crazy stuff. But it's similar to like badges, like what they do with the newer 2Ks, right? I know you guys have been paying attention a little bit and hearing, Andrew and I talk about it. And obviously I've been in NBA 2K23, my team, and playing my NBA, and so is Andrew. But I guess it would be, that's like badges before badges, I would say.
Yeah, everything that we know about 2K22 and 2K23 is basically from listening to you guys, because we don't really we haven't messed with anything newer than 2K19 in recent times.
Yeah, what do you guys think of the footage? So Andrew did a little bit of footage with him playing with his NLSC Thrill Ho team and whatnot, and then my team footage, and then the game I uploaded where I think it was Nate that commented and said this doesn't look too bad. It was Celtics versus Hawks. What do you guys think of the state of basketball gaming today? And then also that footage in particular, does it get you guys kind of excited to maybe get the game or at least try it?
I mean, we would play it if we had it. We have a PlayStation 4, so it's still on the table. Honestly, the gameplay and the graphics look awesome, but everybody, I don't know, we kind of have the same. We're old curmudgeons. We We see everybody with, paying hundreds of dollars to upgrade players and stuff. And I don't know, the focus just doesn't seem to be on the game as much as, all the outside noise and, improving my player, all that stuff. So, something we'd consider, but, we're still so focused on the old games for the moment.
I like the thing about the new game. One of the reasons that I would buy it, maybe not this year, but maybe in the future, is how much I'm into the NBA at the moment. Like when I was a kid, buying the new game was awesome because I was all ready for that roster update with the Cleveland Cavaliers getting Donovan Mitchell and getting ready for their big playoff championship run. That kind of has me more motivated to get the new game to play with that roster. And the graphics obviously look amazing on all of your highlights. It'd be worth a try. Just, the pickup and playability, like how long it's going to take to memorize all these new buttons so I could be competitive. That's probably the hardest thing.
It's funny you mentioned Donovan Mitchell. ZZ Cool J of the NLSC Thrill Ho, our Pro-Am squad, he's a big Cavs fan, and he was going to skip this year, but ended up getting 2K23 when he, again, saw that they acquired Donovan Mitchell and thought, okay, I'm kind of into the squad that's going to be, into the team, what the Cavs team is going to be this year, so I had to pick up the new game. So he did that and got into my career again and joined us again in the squad. So yeah, it's definitely the enthusiasm for the current NBA is a huge driving force, as you said, as it always was back in the day for us growing up.
And I have a quick story too about Donovan Mitchell, really quick. So I don't understand what it is, but Donovan Mitchell is super popular. He doesn't say much. He's not like a boisterous personality or anything like that, but there's a draw to Donovan Mitchell. And when he first went to the Cavs, that week where I was making the top 10 plays of the week, I got so many highlights of Donovan Mitchell, you wouldn't believe it. And I had to turn a few down. I'm like, I can't make this whole top 10 Donovan Mitchell. Everybody was putting Donovan Mitchell on the Cavs. Everybody was like trying to submit highlights with him in it and everything. So I turned a few down and I was like, can you send me another highlight that's not Donovan Mitchell? So yeah, there's definitely like a draw to Donovan Mitchell. And I think that what people are liking a little bit more about the NBA, and I think you guys would agree, right now, is there isn't like a super team out there really. That the league seems a little bit more balanced, and a lot of fan bases feel like their team can compete and have a chance, where otherwise they felt like the season might be like an afterthought.
Yeah, the Warriors years when they had Durant, and even the Cavs years with LeBron. I mean, there was 2 or 3 teams that could possibly compete for a championship, but there's a lot more parity in the league now, which I think is good for the league. Just like with the NFL, there's 8 to 10 teams a year that could possibly win the Super Bowls, and you're seeing that translate a little into the NBA now.
I actually wanted to bring up something too. You had mentioned like getting your hands on the sticks and like learning all the new buttons and everything. I think, and I talked about this on one of the most recent podcasts, is NBA 2K is NBA 2K. Like when you play 2K, you're playing a 2K game. Like it's that 2K gameplay. It's that 2K look and whatnot. I've never had a problem, and that's because the mechanics feel very similar overall in the button mapping as they have for so many years. So I never like feel that way about the game. So if you guys decide that you want to get like the newest 2K or whatnot, I wouldn't worry too much about like the button mapping or getting used to the controls and whatnot. It's pretty easy to jump into.
I think the biggest detriment to us is when we have multiple game nights back to back in a row. We'll play Live 01, Live 05, Madden, and then like adding a 2K to it. It's just switching buttons on the fly can be a little challenging. That first quarter is always turnover prone.
Alley-oops from midcourt. Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah, even
That
going
happens
from
to Andrew and I.
even going from NBA Live 2005, and then we play a game of 01. It does take a couple minutes to like just get the muscle memory back and really map out what you're trying to do on the court.
They play so different. Live 2005 and Live 2001, the pace is entirely different. Just the overall control and what you can do, because then in Live 2005 you also have the right stick dribbling. I wanted to actually bring that up. So, you guys have been playing a lot of NBA Live 2005 lately. You were previously playing more Live 2004. What is it that keeps making you go back to Live 2001? You guys are the Live 2001 legends, after all. You just can't seem to put that game away.
Obviously the familiarity with it, and just the old school rosters, and we always have like a season or a playoff or some sort of tournament going. Yeah, it's just the old school aspect of it. I mean, basically everybody that's in NBA Live 2001 is retired now, and just getting that interaction on Instagram and Twitter and everything with those old guys, are the Greg Oster tags, Chris Childs, Charlie Ward, all those guys, and tagging them and seeing their reactions to stuff. That's definitely a draw. But also the gameplay. I mean, there's definitely like a simplicity to it, and it's it's different. It's not as much run and gun and shoot. It's more post up and find the right matchup and try to exploit the defender.
Yeah, the style of basketball is just different with what you can do with the game. Like in 01, there's one or two fast break plays a game. They just get bogged down by the CPU sprinting to catch up to you. So that's already a factor there. And then the post game is just the best. It's the best post game just because you have to do post game in 01. That's the best way to score. So that's just a different way to play basketball, kind of an older way.
Well, it was 2001. That was the era of, dominant power forwards, the Tim Duncans, the Chris Webbers, Kevin Garnett's. I mean, every team seemed to have, a big that they could go to. It's just the complete opposite of like today's style of
every
play.
Team's best player could do some moves in the post. Even if your best player was Jerry Stackhouse or
Latrell Sprewell.
Yeah. They operated inside the 3-point arc.
Think about this. You guys went through all those names, and you didn't even name people like Elton Brand or Rasheed Wallace. Like, there were so many good big men at the time. I think I mentioned it recently that the early 2000s are recognized for two things. One, like style with attitude with the guys like, Steve Francis and Kobe and whatnot, from that guard and small forward position, and then great power forwards. And it can be argued that the early 2000s is the best era ever for power forwards. I could see that.
And baggy shorts.
And baggy shorts.
Which has all but disappeared, and the shorter shorts are circulating back, just like everything in life.
Well, it's funny. They used to make fun of like John Stockton and whatnot, and Karl Malone, and Larry Bird. When he was wearing them in the '80s, the short shorts and everything. And now they're coming back, and all the kids are saying they're cool because it's cool again. You know what I mean? So like, it is wild. And then people say things like, and I love hearing other people's takes on this, but. They say like, oh, look at Jeff Rulin. You guys know who that is. He's got a mustache and like he's got like almost like a mullet, when he was playing, back then in the 80s. But if somebody looked like that now in today's NBA, if they had that mustache and they had like his hair and everything, he would be a fan favorite. They would absolutely love him, but they still call Jeff Rulin a plumber just because he looked like that back then. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like completely contradictory.
Well, most of the guys in the 80s and 90s were plumbers and electricians in the off season, according to today's media.
The worst. JJ Redick, the worst.
Yeah, short shorts for basketball players is really big for the youth right now, and high school players. Not short shorts, but definitely above the knee shorts. That's definitely the style.
No TJ forwards.
Yeah, I look weird in short shorts because I got long, skinny legs. Like, it doesn't do anything for me. But yeah. I wanted to actually bring up something really quick because Roger mentioned Greg Ostertag. He showed me some of the conversations that he's had with him. I'm totally fascinated by this. Like, so Roger and Nate, they share highlights on Instagram, and they obviously have their YouTube channel and whatnot. And they, do features on certain players and whatnot. They have former players who were in NBA Live 2001 talk to them about their experiences in Live 2001, and then how did they perform in the game when they were being used, all of that stuff, and talk about matchups and everything. Can you talk about some of those interactions that you've had with former players?
Yeah, two of them that are funny. One quick one. So I was, I had like a season with the New York Knicks, so I was tagging like Chris Childs, Glenn Rice, some of those guys, and after a couple games into the season, Chris Childs DMs me. He goes, "Yo, why you tag me in this stuff?" And I just said something, funny back, like, "Oh, we just, you're my favorite backup point guard," or something like that. And and then the next day, I wake up and he followed our account, and then he was like always like viewing our stories and stuff. So that was funny. But with Greg Ostertag, I actually like kind of picked his brain about, you know, basketball back in the day, because when I had a season with the Jazz, so I tagged him a few times, and he would DM us and be like, how did I play? How did I do? And so, you know, we would interact and have short little conversations with him. And eventually I just kind of hit him up one night and asked him like what were the most difficult guy, because he was like a big defense first guy. His like defensive ratings and numbers were like off the charts for back in the day, always like guarding the best big on the other team. And I asked him what were his toughest assignments in the early 2000s, and he mentioned obviously Shaq and Yao, and he gave us an interesting answer with Big Country, Bryant Reeves. That he was one of the most skilled big men he had to defend.
So I watch Bryant Reeves when he was playing. Like Andrew and I both love Bryant Reeves. Mm-hmm. And he would have games where he would put up 20 and 10, and he would score in so many different ways, because he could post up back to the basket. He could hit that mid-range shot. He actually had a quick first step for a guy his size and whatnot, and he just looked really good. I think he's one of the most underappreciated, most underrated players to play during that time. So that doesn't surprise me really at all. It's too bad that he wasn't in the league longer, to be honest. And didn't Greg Ostertag also say something about the whole like JJ Redick like crapping on the past, or, you know, calling past players plumbers? Didn't he like stand up for his era and talk about how talented and great everybody was?
Oh yeah, he said something about how, you know, teams these days, they don't necessarily like run plays and stuff, and they don't have like specialists like they used to back in the day, you know, guys that you know actually play defense and stuff. And he said, you know, it's just like run and gun today. So yeah, he was dogging today's game a little bit, because I think one of the pundits said something about how today's Warriors would beat the Jazz in like they'd sweep them. They beat them in like 4 games, and I asked him about that, and he disagreed.
No, it's great to see people from that era standing up for it, because you see a few players from that era. Eddie Johnson is one, and even Isaiah Thomas at times throwing their own era under the bus. Just to downplay Michael Jordan, usually in the old GOAT debates, but to prop up the now, downplaying their own era and their own accomplishments in a way. It's really, really strange. But I love that interaction you're having with those players. I've had a little bit myself. I know you have too, Derek. I didn't tag D Brown in one of the highlights I posted on our Instagram, but I did hashtag D Brown. He must have been searching for that, and yeah, he liked that and responded positively. And I think Kenny Anderson was retweeted one of the highlights. I threw an alley using him to Derek Coleman in Live 95. And it's, yeah, just getting the interaction with these players that we grew up watching on TV, and that accessibility we have through social media, and when you can have those positive interactions, it's cool. It kind of makes your day.
Yeah, playing with Greg Ostertag was awesome after he started talking to us, because I had the season where I was the Jazz, Roger was the Knicks, I was the Jazz. So every game I tried to feature Greg. And the first game that I had, I tried to get Greg player of the game. I ran my offense through him to try to get a triple-double. And I took the potential game-winning shot with him, which was wide open, but at lower ratings, he missed it, and I lost in overtime. And I tweeted or sent Greg his stat line, and he almost got a quadruple-double with 8 assists and like 7 turnovers. And he commented back like, "Whoa, 8 assists, that's a lot." And it just was so funny to see, like, wake up and see Greg, you know, commenting on my performance with him from the previous night. It was hilarious.
Yeah, he said something along the lines of like, "Oh, I didn't usually dish it out that much."
Yeah, coach didn't really run a lot of plays for me back then.
They must love this though, because you guys keep them alive, right? Like you keep their names, you know, out there and whatnot, and you like show appreciation and whatnot.
Yeah, most of these guys get tagged because Roger will put up a poll with like the starting lineups of our matchups on Instagram and tag the players on Instagram, and that's when we get a lot of interactions with them. And so who is the guy who voted against himself?
Oh, was it
Kenny Thomas, maybe?
Oh yeah, we're playing, or I was playing as Houston, And I tagged like Hakeem, Kenny Thomas, and a few other guys, and he voted like for the Trailblazers or whoever I was playing against. Voted against himself in the poll. It was so funny.
I like the humility of that.
Yeah, maybe he's going to pick with his teammates or something.
Good.
Right. I'll say this too. I think Andrew would agree. I think you guys are doing a great job of growing your channel and your channels and your content and whatnot. I keep an eye on your YouTube subscribers and everything, for the type of content that you're putting out, which is some would consider outdated because, you're looking at 15 plus years between now and when those games were new and fresh and whatnot. For you guys to get over 100 subscribers on YouTube and get all of those views and interactions on Instagram, you guys are clearly doing something right. And I know that has to add to the fun of putting on these games and like posting on social media.
Yeah, exactly. Like when we play a game, from my perspective, since I do all of the work online, playing a game, I'm thinking about this is going to go to YouTube. Why else would I play a game unless I want to put it on YouTube and share the content? And I think that as much as I like to share the content, I also like to make the videos just to watch me and Roger play and figure out how the game works. Like after watching plays for so long, so many years, especially in 01, you just know the result of every play if you do a particular move.
01 is just, it's such a precise game, and just like knowing guys' ratings and just like rewatching the games and like seeing what works, seeing which like shots are the highest percentage is so important. We do go back and we'll spend a half hour sometimes just watching some old highlights, and just adds to the legend of the Live 01 legends.
Something that Derek and I talk about a lot is with the content that we create together and separately for the NLSC is we want to focus on content that we enjoy making, that we feel good about, that we're not trying to jump on some trend or whatever just for the sake of trying to go viral. And obviously we love to have as many people tuning into the podcast and our videos and reading my articles and everything else and going to the NLSC to download mods, uploading mods to the download section, etc. But we want to do content that we are proud of and that we enjoy, that we're not just grinding away at something that we don't like because, this is the trend. Build videos in my career. I do play my career. I have no interest in doing build videos or things like that. I mean, certainly I'll jump into discussions in the forum about builds and whatnot and post thoughts on Twitter and whatnot, but I don't want to make those videos. And that's what I like about you still sticking with Live 2001, of course, a game that I'm quite familiar with as well, and it's great to see you guys play it, but that you're making that content that you want to make, and if you want to play another game, you'll go and you play another game for a little while, and you put that video up as well. And I really appreciate and admire that, because that reflects what Derek and I feel about content creation, that it has to come from that enjoyment and passion that's genuine, and people can tell that.
Yeah, we get pretty heated sometimes, in late game situations, and when something that's BS happens. I mean, I get pretty amped up a little more than Nate. So as you can see in some of the top tens.
Yeah, I try to keep my emotions inside because I may not show my emotions like Roger does, but I definitely feel them on the inside, and they do affect my play.
Roger's reaction to the Sean Elliott 3 at the buzzer. I can't get over that. You just look so deflated.
It was such a ridiculous shot, like double teamed in the corner. You ran the whole length of the floor,
literally,
and like with
0.1
second. Nate's like the king of getting shots off with like 0.1 or 0.2 seconds left, just waiting until the absolute last second.
You just, after playing this game so much, you just know how long everything's going to take to the millisecond.
You have an internal clock.
That's a great word for it, yes. That series, the Spurs Heat series, that was probably the most like butterfly and intense series like that I had, just because I thought you had the advantage because you're so good with the Heat.
Mm-hmm.
And the Spurs, good on paper, they're still a little tricky to play with in 01, but that was a really fun series.
Oh yeah, the Heat and the Spurs, we've had some great series with that in NBA Live 2001. Talk about like a complete team, and kind of, a team that never like made it to the finals or anything, but that Heat team with Alonzo Mourning, Brian Grant, Eddie Jones. I mean, that was a really, really fun team. One of my most favorite teams to play with from like the early 2000s lives.
You're very good at playing with that team. You just have that magic with Ceballos.
Oh, Cedric Ceballos and Anthony Mason is such a great combination at the three. Spallas can hit the corner threes, and Anthony Mason is just good at everything.
And like sneaky Eddie House off the bench and Ricky Davis off the bench for that Heat team. Like even though they're not rated high, Ricky Davis can dunk really well. They both have really good steal ratings, and Eddie House has a really high field goal rating. So that Heat team, Rogers is really good with them.
Well, they have a young Eddie House, Bruce Bowen, and Ricky Davis. Like kind of, I guess you could say like raw versions of them, but still like really athletic, and they can do a couple things really, really well.
Yeah, that's the Heat is probably your best team whenever I play with like the Kings or almost anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot just capture that magic that you do. I need a tall guy. I need a 7-footer, and the Heat have no 7-footers that you use. Like Mourning and Grant are both 6'9" and 6'10".
Yeah, I mean the Heat, it's the sum of their parts. Like you have 5 guys on the floor at all times that can do something really, really well. I mean, even with Tim Hardaway, Eddie Jones can take it off the dribble and score inside, and then he can dump it down to Zoe, and he's hard to stop.
You talk about a team that was like super in the video games, but not like super in real life. It reminds me of that game I had against Nate on NBA Live 2004, where he was using the Cavs, and that Cavs team obviously didn't make the playoffs in real life. But when you put them on the floor in that video game, and you have Darius Miles, Ricky Davis, and LeBron, and then you have Big Z in the game where you can kind of use him like Shaq and whatnot, and you have shooters on the corners and whatnot, that Cavs team ends up being incredibly fun to use and hard to beat in NBA Live 2004. So when you talk about the Heat like that and whatnot, it makes me think of that matchup that I had with Nate.
Yeah, Miles Davis and LeBron, those are some serious high flyers in 04, and it's really easy to score in 04, what we've been finding out, like the more we play 05, like 04 is definitely more of an arcade style game, and if you have a lot of guys that can dunk, you can put up a lot of points.
That team was only together for like 3 months before some people got traded, and they're just so fun in a video game. Just a really fun video game team.
You bring up a great point there, and it's one of the reasons I love revisiting old games for Way Back Wednesday or playing with Derek or just by myself, that it captures that moment in time. I overuse this phrase in articles and on the podcast, interactive almanacs, but they really are, that you can go back, and like you said, there may be a team that was only together for half a season, or even less than half a season, but it's just there captured in the rosters of a video game, and they're so fun to play with on the floor. They may never have done anything of note in real life, but they're just so fun to play with on the virtual hardwood. And, I go back to 2001 and that Heat team. I did mention in an article about stints that lasted longer than I remembered. I always forget that Tim Hardaway was on the Heat through 2001. It felt like, in my memory, I have a false memory of him leaving a bit earlier, or even during the 2001 season, but it wasn't until the next year that he went on to the Mavericks, I believe, and then ended up on the Nuggets, being traded, if I have that round the right way. But it's one of those things that captures that moment in time that I just love going back and playing with. Obviously, the old branding and everything that you have at the time, and because you obviously know that game inside out. I mean, the fact that you can know the animation speed and that you have that internal clock, as you say, that you've just mastered those mechanics so much is very admirable.
Another thing with 01 real quick is the gameplay and all the cutscenes can all be easily skipped and like hurried up. So like there's a lot more time when you're actually playing the game than when you're watching stuff happen. Like there's no free throw routines. Everything's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It just makes the game more fun because it's just let's go. And there's less lulls. So it's just another thing that I like about 01.
That is something about old games as well. The presentation of modern games, I don't think you can go back from that because you need to have that depth there. But sometimes that streamlined experience of the old games that you can just get in there and play, even Live 2000, 99 and 2000, I love those games, but waiting for the free throw, waiting for the referee to throw the ball, bounce the ball to play the free throw line, it's just way too long. They did improve that in 2001, but yeah, that's...
We'll get this. MLB The Show, and this is what I think would be great for the NBA games now. They have a regular play mode, and then you can play your game in retro mode. And when you select retro mode, it gets rid of all of those cutscenes.
So that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Like if they had that in the newer NBA games, I would absolutely use that option to get rid of, all of that extra stuff and, the mobile one play of the game, or the mobile one block of the game or whatever it is and whatnot in the newest 2K. And I think that would all just obviously appeal to both, you, Nate and Roger.
They'll never do it though, because that gets rid of all the advertising and the hours spent on the game that they like to tout. How many man hours have been spent playing the game, as well as recurrent revenue and whatever. That's unfortunate. I mean, the fact that we can't skip timeouts in my career because then the Gatorade logo won't be there as long. Or you've got to wait 15 seconds to skip the timeout cutscene in my career. It's just not going to happen. It's a damn shame.
I'm sure they'll make an option that you can pay like $5 a month to skip ads.
No, don't give them ideas. Don't give them ideas.
No,
man.
they'll do it. They will jump all over that. And you know what? Nate and Roger would pay. Didn't you guys pay to remove the YouTube ads?
Oh yeah, I think I spend like $12 a month for that, and that is so worth the money because I think I watch YouTube like 90% of the time. Like I don't sit and binge Netflix and vampire shows and stuff like that. I would just watch sports stuff and documentaries and stuff on YouTube. So it kind of pays for itself.
I'm subscribed to like 390 YouTube channels. And so every day I'm watching YouTubers make content. A lot of gaming channels too. A lot of sports documentary, independent people who make their own stuff. Gave me a lot of ideas.
NLSC, shout out.
Yeah, definitely. So
I hear they're good.
Main source of entertainment on the TV.
I wanted to bring something up too, because you brought up that Heat team with Eddie Jones. One of my favorite Heat teams, and maybe my favorite of all time, is actually the 60-win Heat team that from 96-97, when they had Alonzo Mourning, Jamal Mashburn, Dan Marley. They had Tim Hardaway, PJ Brown. Like, I absolutely love that team, and they're so stacked. I'm going to actually follow this up with a question for both of you, because we don't talk about pre-2000 too often with you guys. I think it's funny that people call that the expansion era, and they try to use that to crap on the early mid 90s and whatnot. But this is, in the now NBA, they had, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, and Bam make the finals. And I feel like that 96-97 Heat team would absolutely wash that Duncan Robinson Heat team. But also, you had the Hornets, who were doing really well in the early, mid-90s. You also had the Orlando Magic, obviously making the finals and whatnot. So, those expansion teams were incredibly talented. So my question for you guys is, pre-2000, what would you say your favorite teams are to either use in a video game or go back and watch on YouTube, or both?
So it's funny you say that 96 Heat team, because when we used to play 2K like 19 and 20, that was one of my go-to teams. With like you said, Dan Marley and basically prime Alonzo Mourning, Tim Hardaway. So that was one of my favorite. And PJ Brown was just an amazing defender, so he could lock up an opposing big. So that was definitely one of my favorite teams to play with. And the early 90s, I think it was the 94-95 Knicks that they have on the classic teams in 2K. Patrick Ewing and all those guys, John Starks especially. Those are another one of my favorite teams.
Yeah, I like the early 90s Cavs teams, just being a homer. I like those guys, Doherty, Price, Hot Rod Williams, Craig Elo. They're just a good
stacked team. Larry Nance. Larry Nance is one of my favorite players ever.
I like the Charles Barkley Suns team as well. Just a lot of cool players that I like.
Unfortunately, you got to download a custom roster to have Charles Barkley in any of those 2K games, though.
I'm pretty sure I played. I don't know when it was, but I've definitely played with him before on a 2K. It may have been a custom roster.
It's a shame that kids these days don't get to play with, those Suns teams and those Rockets teams with Charles Barkley.
I like that Jazz team too, just because the core of Malone and Stockton stuck together. So you're kind of just mixing and mashing pieces around them throughout the years. So almost any Jazz team is fun. Kind of same with the Bulls and Jordan. Like, those stars stuck with their team so long that depending on the year, you could have role players that could do certain things, and one year might be better than the other. I like the Mark Eaton for the Jazz, 7'4" center in the 80s and early 90s, and then you have Greg Ostertag, 7'2" center.
Yeah, people focus on those Jazz teams that made the finals, but I don't think those Jazz teams that made the finals were, and I think Andrew would agree, were as good as the Mark Eaton, Thurl Bailey, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Jeff Malone team and whatnot. That those Jazz teams from the late 80s and early 90s and whatnot were deeper. And I love that point you made about, pieces kind of being fit around Stockton and Malone and moving parts over the years, because my favorite Jazz teams to use in video games are never the mid-late 90s Jazz. It's always the late 80s Jazz, because I like those pieces better that were fit around Stockton and Malone.
100%, I agree.
I mean, I like playing against the late 90s Jazz with the late 90s Bulls, but no, I definitely see your point there. Teams that came up against some very tough competition in the West. Weren't they in the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers one year? Or am I thinking of the Mavericks?
Went 7 games. No, it went 7 games and the Lakers ended up winning.
But the Mavericks did as well. Derek Harper, Rolando Blackman, Mavericks did as well, didn't they? The year before, possibly?
I want to say that. I'll have to look at it. I know that Roger and Nate have Basketball Reference up and whatnot, but I know that the Jazz had the Lakers on tilt, like on their heels, and I want to say it was 87-88. And I think it went 7 games, and the Jazz ended up losing a close one in Game 7.
87-88, they lost to the Lakers in the conference semis.
Yeah. So they were very competitive for years before they made the finals. Absolutely. And Mark Eaton. I mean, that was a sad story. Was it last year he passed, or the year before? I remember listening to an interview with him on In All Airness. Fellow Aussie Adam has that great NBA podcast, working with the Retired Players Association to interview a lot of the former players from the Jordan era, and just a great interview with Mark Eaton. I would definitely recommend you, and if you haven't heard it, and all our listeners, give that a listen sometime as well. Go back to Adam's archives. He has some fantastic interviews with the likes of Mark Eaton. Dale Ellis was a great interview as well. Even spoke to Rick Barry, who was obviously an earlier era, but yeah, he's just got some great interviews as well.
If Mark Eaton was in Live 04, he would average 10 blocks a game. He was so good at blocking.
Yes.
Yeah, 456 blocks in one season. You'll never see that again. I'm sorry, but you'll never see that again.
What about with Victor Wembanyama?
Oh my God.
Developer's probably going to make it really good. I'm trying to predict his rating.
You know what it is with the newer 2Ks, and I think I talked about this on a previous show, you may have heard it, is what they do is they make these tall, lanky guys mostly unstoppable if they have any hint of speed and ball handling in the newer games. Like Bull, I could average like 70 points a game with him. And in real life, he has trouble taking the court. He's not polished enough as a player. He's not consistent enough. He's not strong enough. But you put him in like the newer NBA 2Ks and you can turn Bull into the ultimate superstar. So I think they have trouble in the newer games, like making those types of players. And then back when with the games that you guys are playing, and then obviously the late 2000s, early 2010s 2Ks, it was just those tall guys that you would get absolutely destroyed by in the paint. The guys like Hashim Thabit and whatnot.
Yeah, height and length always performs better in video games than in real life. Always.
We also notice that a lot of players these days have very inflated ratings, and Derek and I have talked about this before, and we feel it's, for lack of a better word, political, in so much as they don't want to upset players these days with lower ratings. You go back to a Live 2001 through the mid-2000s, 2004, 2005, you would see some incredibly low-rated players. There's players in 2001 in the rotation in the 60s. I think the lowest-rated player, Jules Brisbilla, in 2005 is rated like a 30-something overall. It's kind of insulting, actually. But there's some really low-rated players back then. They just really took advantage of the full 0 to 99 scale that these days, you're lucky if you see anybody below 75.
Yeah, the rating scale did change after what was it, 2000? Yeah, 2003. They went from 50 to 100 or 50 to 99 from 0 to 100.
Yeah,
and yeah. You did see a lot of guys in the 30s actually in 2004 and 2005.
A lot of the big men, the backup bigs, were always 30s on the IR.
Yeah, second round pick bigs that were rookies were always like 30s and 40s.
Yeah, and I don't remember them complaining about it either.
Well, no social media, so no.
That's
no
what I was about to say. Height of
yeah.
social media. Can you imagine like a player being tagged and it says, "Hey, your rating is 34 overall"? You realize? Can you imagine that player's response to that? Like, take me out of the friggin' game.
I did. I forget who it was from the original live development team who I was talking to a few years back, but they were talking about doing the rosters. Mentioned that there was an incident with Antoine Walker confronting them back in the studio about his ratings. So it did happen, but it wasn't as public, obviously, because of the lack of social media. But yeah, you have to imagine some of them look at those ratings and back in the day and think, oh, that's kind of insulting. And the funny thing about the original ratings is that internally, the ratings always did go from 0 to 99, but to pump them up a little bit, to not insult players, they in-game went from 50 to 99. So if you were editing in the roster, the raw rating in the database, you would see that rating from 0 to 99. And I've mentioned it before, but in Live 2004, the reason that in Dynasty mode it generates players, and this is something it only clicked for me a few years back when I was thinking about it, but the reason that there's so many players with point guards with low dribbling ratings and everything is that it generates that they haven't changed the rating that it generates them with, and it's that old raw rating. So a rating of say 40 something, which used to translate to about 75, 80 in the old in the older games. They didn't change it for 2005, so for 2004 rather. So it gave them those lower ratings, and that's why all these low-rated rookies in Dynasty mode. So fortunately they fixed that in 2005, but it's funny when you go back and look and you can see how some of those errors came about.
It's funny, we joke about, we got to talk to the developers about this when something weird happens in 2001, but you've actually talked to the developers.
Yeah, Andrew's lucky. I actually wasn't on those episodes and whatnot, but I've gone back and listened to him. And he even had Tim Kitzrow on, who's the voice of NBA Jam, and was able to talk to him. And I always think that's really cool about the NLSC is, being able to talk to either past developers and, past personalities from the games and everything. And the fact that they even want to be on this show and that's pretty cool. I actually had a question though for Nate, because Nate actually played Parsec on Parsec with me, and we've actually connected and played a bunch of different games and whatnot. What do you think of Parsec, Nate? And how incredible is that app?
Oh, it's amazing. Just the fact that I could play against you in NBA Live 2001 from Ohio to up in New England where you're at in 2022 and 2021, that's just unbelievable. Like, I've only played against Roger my whole life, and we don't even know anybody else who plays, really. Like, there's not that much good content on YouTube for NBA Live 2001. In fact, there's probably more CPU versus CPU games on YouTube than actual humans playing. It's that sad. But when we played together, it was almost perfect. Like, there may be a slight lag in the free throws, but it was consistent where I could get used to it after like a quarter. But those games were so much fun. Just playing against someone new besides Roger is just awesome. And also that college basketball 2K8 tournament, that was another just great experience, playing against more people in human-to-human games. Just that isn't possible without Parsec.
How awesome was that tournament, right? Everybody was so into it. And you get to play against people from all around the world and everything. And everybody was such a good sport. And everybody competed hard. And I thought that everybody, for the most part, also like played the right way. They weren't trying to cheese the game and everything. I look back on that and I was like, wow, man, that was a good experience and it worked so well. I think my favorite game that you and I have actually played is when we actually teamed up on NBA Live 2000 and we were using the Orlando Magic. Remember, we threw those couple really nice alley-oops and we took down the Heat on the hardest level and whatnot. That was an absolute blast. And it also goes back to why at times I enjoy co-op more than head-to-head. Like, I just thought that was a really fun experience.
Yeah, I liked co-op with you because you got a good basketball brain and like you just kind of assume what you're going to do on the court, and you're willing to pass a lot. And co-op's fun, too, because I can kind of become a fan and watch someone else play, and I don't have to guard them. I can kind of just stand on the three-point line just as backup. So it was definitely a good way to play the game. It was really fun. more laid back. There was, playing on Superstar, there's some pressure, but it was very fun. I liked our alley-oops too. Those alley-oops, they're so unique. Like, there's never going to be any more alley-oops that look like that. You can't do those type of alley-oops like with by yourself. You need another player.
The dunk package in NBA Live 2001 is like kind of underrated in my opinion. There's some cool animations.
They're really good and one dunks. Like when the dunk happens and you knock over a defender and go to the free throw line, it looks so awesome in 01.
Yeah, I think that one of the best things about playing co-op is, like you said, there's stuff that happens on the floor that would never happen if you're just controlling a team by yourself or if you're going to head with another person. It's why, I love playing with my brother, and I know you guys see those videos that I put up from time to time, and Andrew and I on NBA Jam on Fire Edition. I'd still say, and Andrew might agree, that the most fun game for Andrew and I to connect on is NBA Jam on Fire Edition. Wouldn't you agree, Andrew?
Oh, it works so well. And that is such a fantastic game that holds up to this day. If they simply re-release that game with updated rosters, it'd sell. And it would sell way more than NBA Playgrounds. I guarantee it. The Jam name obviously sells a lot, but it's a worthy entry in the Jam series. I still think it's the best Jam game of all time. I know it's a bit of a contentious opinion, but yeah, connecting with you and playing through the road trip, just so we can do a co-op road trip, being able to do a co-op campaign mode, I should say, is a lot of games don't let you do that.
Yeah, it's one of the highlights of my year, actually, the last 2 years, is playing that with you. And I want to go back to what Roger said. He talked about, the contact and one dunks in NBA Live 2001. My brother and I insist that whistle that happens right when the ball goes through the hoop is by far the best part of the highlight. Like, it enhances it so much. It's that loud whistle, then you hear the body hit the floor and whatnot, and it just adds so much to the highlight. So whenever we get an and one like that on a contact oop or a contact dunk or anything like that, and we hear that whistle, we laugh. There's so much, it adds so much to the immersion of the play, and that definitely happens in NBA Live 2001.
Yeah, getting dunked on is bad enough, but getting dunked on and your guy being, face down on the ground is much worse.
I was going to add just a Parsec. That's, if you want to have a good alley-oop, co-op, Parsec on any basketball video game, you'll have the best alley-oops.
Oh, yeah. It was great. Also, I do want to point out, though, you and I played NBA Live 2004, and it was the Kings versus the Timberwolves. If you remember correctly, I uploaded that footage to YouTube. I think I ended up pulling away at the end, but the game was so competitive and so fun going back and forth with you. And you also beat me on NBA Live 2002, so you got me back there. But, outside of NBA Live 2001, what game would you say that we visited was the most enjoyable over the app?
Probably 2004, just because that's probably my second favorite basketball video game ever, NBA Live 2004. Just playing it as a kid, and I just love the simplicity. And playing it lately, again, I just found a whole new love for it for the second time. But probably more than 02 as well.
Roger, we need to get you on that app, too. We need to get you playing. I know that we've tried to schedule it a couple times, but I'd love to get, a few games in with you.
Yeah, we gotta just plan it a couple days ahead, and we'll one of these days.
I'm still thinking 2v2 in we can do 2004 PC with my 96 roster, just throwbacks on throwbacks. 2v2 in 2001. I got that working on PC again.
Yeah, 01, 04, 05. I'm down for. We're all very familiar with that game here, so definitely a good pick up and play games.
And a lot of mods, Derek. We can share those with the with Nate and Roger. The mods we have for Live 2004 and 2005 and even 2001 PC. We can throw together some custom rosters and really have some fun.
That's kind of the beauty of Parsec as well, is that you can use mods and whatnot and share those with people who, even if those people don't own the physical game. and you can jump on line with them and play. I'd probably want us to do Live 2004, Live 2005 to start off against Nate and Roger, because I don't want to get embarrassed on Live 2001 by them.
Good point.
To start off. Yeah. So we'll probably do those two games, because you guys are, absolute pros on Live 2001.
Before we go on, a reminder that the NLSC podcast comes out every week on the NLSC, nba-live.com, as well as our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast apps. If you're listening on any of those apps, we'd greatly appreciate a review. To keep up with the show and everything we're doing with basketball gaming in general, connect with us on social media. On Twitter and Facebook, we are the NLSC. We also have an Instagram, NLSC Basketball, and on YouTube, we're youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. Once again, visit us at nba-live.com, where in addition to the podcast, you'll also find all of our original content, as well as our forum and modding community.
I did have a question, though, because we're talking about like the different games and whatnot. What is it about a certain game that gets you guys excited to put it on? Like, what's the draw? Like, you have a long day at work or whatnot, and you guys are sitting in front of the TV. What is it that gets you to put a specific game on?
Well, every day's different. Some days we're in the mood to, play something a little more fast paced, like an 04 or an 05, which has been in the rotation lately. Some days we just play Madden, which we've been into a little bit more lately. But obviously, always we still play 01 a couple times a week, but that's just it's different every day. We get into seasons in certain games, or we'll do playoffs, tournaments, and especially with like 04 and 05, we've been doing a lot of fantasy drafts and stuff. So we'll like create custom teams with combinations of guys we've never played with before. So just something to like keep it fresh and keep it new, keeps us going back to certain games.
Yeah, I think based on like what I watch or view in like that week, like before we started playing 04 and 05 a lot, I watched videos of it on YouTube that made me want to play. And then once we got into it, once I saw Roger was into 04, I was like, all right, well, now we're both into it. We should play this for a couple months and get good at it and get used to it. And maybe it'll stay in the rotation. And also the pick up and play ability, like 04's controls are so simple and I'm so used to them, and they just make sense especially they're different than 2K. They got that live feel, but the controllers just feel good and I know what to do. So being good at the game definitely helps make me want to play it more.
It's interesting to hear what inspires you to pick up a certain game. I go through nostalgic phases myself. At the moment, I have my 20-year high school reunion coming up, actually. So I'm really kind of outside of 2K23, reminiscing and looking and picking up every so often a Live 2001, 2002, 2003, games that were new around that time. And I remember, because that was around the time that I started running the NLSC. So those were the games that I was really modding on PC. Well, not 2002, of course, that was console only, but a game that I was playing at that time. And it's now that I'm really reminded of that, and with the reunion coming up. So yeah, is it kind of like you watch some highlights online? Like, you'll see some, you talk about the Spurs, for example, you see some David Robinson highlights, and oh no, we got to break out Live 2001 and use those Spurs.
Yeah, watching old NBA games definitely makes me want to play with the older teams. I like watching throwback games I've never seen before, and just watching the difference of the style of play. And that's definitely a factor that makes me want to play the old games.
And it's great, isn't it, when you can see a game that you've never seen before, or a rare highlight that hasn't really made a lot of reels. Because there's some that, as you know, and as you know, Derek, that there are some famous highlights, I should say, that they make all the reels. So they made all the home videos back in the day, and they're always in all the compilations. But somebody pulls out a deep cut, as the kids would say these days. When somebody pulls that out, it's really special to see somebody share a long forgotten highlight that maybe you haven't seen as often, or if at all.
Yeah, when I was watching the 94-95 Spurs versus Suns game, it was a regular season game, but it was an important regular season game. And I'm watching, Charles Barkley and David Robinson go at it and all the amazing stuff they did on the floor. That Barkley for 94-95, I just want to point out, he was still so good at that point, and he was still super athletic. And, he had added a more consistent mid-range shot and long-range shot and everything. He's just so fun to watch. on defense and offense. But watching those highlights, you saw what I did, Andrew, right after. I posted those highlights on Twitter, and then I was like, all right, time to put on a video game where I can use both of these teams.
Yes.
So I threw on NBA 2K14 with mods and NBA 2K19 with mods and put on the 94-95 seasons. And I faced off with David Robinson and Charles Barkley, and I posted some of those highlights. It's just the beauty of basketball gaming, right? It's that you can watch these players play in real time, and then you can bring that experience to the sticks, and you can use those players, and it's amazing.
That's what we did back in the day, growing up, and I'm sure Nate and Roger, you can attest to this as well. That you watch something on TV, then you race outside to play in the driveway, the backyard, and replicate what you saw, or pick up a game and play. I mean, when you're that into basketball, anything can prompt you to watch more basketball, or go outside and play basketball, or play virtual basketball in a game. You know, when you love the sport that much, it doesn't take much to get you hyped up to indulge that love.
Yeah, it's nice with like the 2Ks, playing with classic teams and stuff, and you can go back, play with the 85 Celtics and stuff like that. I mean, that's always fun. But yeah, like 01 was like our first basketball video game, so I think that's what keeps us going back to that. I mean, just like the memories of like that brand new in the box 2001. That feeling's lasted 22 years now.
Yeah, the history definitely makes us keep coming back, just because we've been through so many phases playing it throughout the years, and just all that are into every game.
And you guys are playing on original hardware, aren't you? PlayStation 2?
Yeah, Roger's PlayStation 2. I think he bought it in 2017. 17? I thought this was your one from Haya.
I think I've had two. I've had two over the years, because I had the GameCube back in the day, and then after I moved out of my parents, I got a PlayStation 2. I got the thin one.
Oh,
and I think that
one is newer.
Yeah, that one crapped out, so I got the old school, like, thick.
The fat metal, yeah.
Yeah, our hardware is definitely worn out. Like, Roger recently had to replace a PS2 controller, and our PS2, there's little glitches in it. Sometimes we'll lose a game at the end, especially in 01. And now our PS2 and our games are doing this thing where the announcers will be talking, and then they'll pause for like a second or two, and the game will like have to catch up, and then they'll finish talking. Like, our hardware has definitely seen better days.
Yeah, the announcer basically has like a stutter.
Yeah, I know, like built into the game out of nowhere all of a sudden. In 04, in Madden, and in 01.
It's really weird. It's in multiple games that the announcer will, take a second to collect his thoughts and then continue what he's saying.
But it's not in like the first-person shooter, like Medal of Honor games. Like nothing even close to that. Like
no, it's just sports games. It's so strange.
Just skipping on the disc. That is strange. Follow-up question: do you have strong feelings about playing on the original hardware as opposed to, say, an emulator where you could upscale, obviously, and have that higher fidelity image, or is it important to play on that original hardware for that kind of authentic retro gaming experience?
Yeah, we do like playing on the original hardware. I mean, basically all we use is the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 for our gaming. But I mean, if we're going to connect with you guys, obviously we'll be using Parsec and the emulator and stuff, which would be cool. I mean, I saw the graphics for when you guys connected on 2004 and 2001, and it does look a little more crisp as opposed to playing in person. So that's always a draw. But yeah, when we play each other, it's just the basics.
I'm open to playing on new equipment. It's just a matter of getting the equipment, learning how to use it, and becoming efficient with using it. And all that stuff takes time, and sometimes I just don't want to spend the time to do that. But I'm definitely open to it. Like, upgrading to a capture card was a big step for me. It just took a lot of time to learn how to use it and find a good system where I could like spend the minimum amount of time making videos. And now I got it, and I'm doing it all the time now, so I don't go back to the old way.
I admire you guys. I just want to point that out. And Nate and Roger, I actually want you to share the story of how you were recording before the capture card, because I think our listeners would love that.
Yeah, back in 2015, we first started recording highlights on our cell phones, and sending them to each other and posting them on Instagram. And it was fun. Nothing big. And then randomly I'm like, I'm going to start recording all of our games and putting them on YouTube. And I started doing that with my phone. I would just stack my phone up on video games and like lean it so it would face the TV, and it obviously looked like crap, but it was amazing at the time watching ourselves play. And then as the years came through, I started editing it to make shorter videos. And then about 2 years ago, I got the first capture card for the PS2. No, not 2 years ago. That was this past summer I started doing that. And that made it, and learning how to use that just made it awesome. So we've gone from using a cell phone to a capture card in like a year. And we still use the cell phone to record ourselves. And I put the two videos together so we could have our commentary and our faces up there. And I just do that because the YouTubers that I like to watch put their faces up there, and I kind of like watching them for their personality and their commentary. So that's why I like to put us up there, just because it makes the game more about, our experience as opposed to just the game.
Yeah, being able to see us like talk crap to each other and the reactions to big shots and big plays and stuff definitely adds like a huge element to these games.
Yeah, I put you, like when I rewatch these games and I see my expression, Roger's expression, I remember those moments vividly. It's weird. It's like reliving them.
Yeah, the smug look on your face when you hit like a fading corner three.
I love it. It adds so much to the highlights that you guys submit to the top 10. And Andrew, I think what they're saying is at some point we need to get our faces up there. I mean, I've done some videos and whatnot where I did commentary and my face was showing. Like I have the hardware and whatnot to do it. But I think one of the problems is one of the struggles for me is not really having the space in my small apartment to like be alone enough where it would work, right? There's always like background noise. There's always stuff going on, in my apartment and whatnot. And there's usually two people there. So like for me, that's tough, but I can see the immersion. I can see why it would be good to see people's personalities and whatnot. And that can add to the video. And I also can see the historical value of, you guys putting yourselves on camera, because you guys can look back on this years from now and you can still have those videos and see you guys, how you looked, how you acted, and, relive, those experiences years later.
Yeah, Derek, I just want to add to you and Andrew, I would love to see your reactions, how you look and how you commentate on your own gameplay as it's happening. Because I watch you play and I think, oh, he's probably thinking this, he's probably doing that because of this. But to hear your actual reasoning behind your moves and plays is really interesting.
We if nothing else, we do need to get on the mics, I think, a bit more, Derek. That's something at the very least we could do, getting on the mics to commentate. We did do a stream on your channel, actually, with on Fire Edition.
I have this thing, this want and yearning, I guess you could call it, to do more streaming, and I just don't have the space. So I think when I get this house situation resolved and whatnot, and I have that podcast studio and I have that gaming room and all of that stuff, I think that I will definitely start doing more streams, because I do like it. I love seeing people come into the chat while I'm streaming, because we do a live stream and whatnot, and ask questions and say that they're enjoying the footage. I love showing my reactions and seeing the person I'm playing with or against, their reactions to certain on-court happenings. And it definitely is great content, especially if we're playing a game that people really love, like NBA Street Volume 2 or Nate and Roger playing Live 2004, etc. So yeah, I would like to get on the mic.
Roger used to have 4 people living at the Live 01 Legends HQ, and we've had games in the past where there was lots of conversations and background noise. So I know what you mean. It sounds like it's annoying to put out content like that, but
I mean, we'll see what we can do. I mean, we've given it a go. Shout out to Nada, actually, always very kind comments on the podcast, and has also jumped into a couple of streams, Derek, if you recall.
Yeah, we've actually had quite a few people who listen to the podcast and that are on the NLSC Discord that jump into some of our streams and ask questions or make comments and whatnot. And that support means the world to us. It's the same as, Nate and Roger seeing a comment on their IG story, right? Or like on their YouTube channel and whatnot. I do have another question actually for Nate and Roger. So you see, the content that I upload to the NLSC channel. Andrew uploads then, our gameplay videos from, when we're playing co-op or against or anything. What would you say is your favorite footage from the NLSC channel?
Well, I do like checking out obviously with 2K22 and 23, your gameplay with that, just to kind of see. Obviously, I rely on you guys for the reviews for the new games and stuff, so I do like checking that out. Any of the old NBA lives I like watching, and I do enjoy Andrew's 2K14 campaign with his My Player and the Terry Hansen story and all that stuff.
Yes.
We love Terry Hansen.
You've made him a virtual hardwood legend in our house too.
Oh, that's good. I love that. Yeah, no, he is one of my favorite fictional video game characters now, I'd have to say. But definitely one of my favorite generated rookies of all time.
You guys wouldn't believe how much Andrew did not like NBA 2K14 when it was released. Just his 180 to get into this career. And, he's playing the game and, he created like a virtual hardwood legend and Terry Hansen. I absolutely love it. And I love his footage on that and his commentary as well. And you wouldn't believe how many videos he sent me of highlights from his, my career explorations over the last, because I think he's coming up on season 5 now and whatnot. And it never gets old because that game looks really good. It produces a lot of great highlights and it's just cool to see the story kind of unfold.
Yeah, like 2K11 and 14 and 17 and 19, I always hold those games in high regards, and I probably had the most fun playing those 4 games particularly.
The best content on the NLSC is definitely the top 10, hands down.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Just so we're all clear.
Yeah.
The fact that you've been doing that for over a year every weekend is awesome. We watch that Saturday or Sunday whenever it comes out, and that's good stuff right there. I'm surprised it isn't more popular than it is.
So I think one of the problems, and you guys deal with this too, right? You guys put out great content. Sometimes, Nate, it takes you hours to edit a video, right? You're putting your faces into it. You guys are working hard and whatnot. And then you put out a video and it gets 60 views. And you're like, man, this content is better than this other video I just looked at that has 100,000 views. What the hell? Every now and then I kind of get that feeling whenever, I upload the top 10 to the NLSC YouTube. And it's because I think it's very unique the way the top 10 for the NLSC is, the structure of it, the music in the background and all the different games that get shown off. It's not always the newest game. It's just a mixture of the newest and the classic games and whatnot. And I love the community for their submissions. You guys have amazing submissions, and I love seeing your highlights. I love getting that tweet from Nate that has the link in it. He doesn't even say anything. It's just here's a link of Roger hitting a ridiculous half-court shot with Andre Miller. This belongs in the top 10. That's the way I look at Nate's thought process probably through that. But at times, I'll upload it, and then I'll see that, after a week it only gets 200 views. Or 250 views. And sometimes it can get me down. But at the same time, it goes back to what Andrew said earlier. The point is quality content that we love to do, right? We're not looking to get famous and whatnot in this. We want to get the community engaged. We want to produce fun content. We want to see the highlights people are putting out there and whatnot. And we want to put on a great show. So it can get you down. And I'd like you guys to expand on that too, because I know that it can get frustrating probably at times for you. It can get you down, but at the end of the day, you just got to love what you're doing. And that's the way I look at the top 10.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough when you expect more from content, but you only get so much. But, even when that happens and you think you should get more views, which is one comment on a video can also just make me be like, yeah, this is worth it. I'm glad this person watched my video and pointed out this play. Because that's what I was thinking.
I mean, none of us are Twitch streamers that are gonna, monetize playing video games. I mean, obviously, we're all sitting here doing this because we love basketball video games. So that speaks volumes.
I mean, that continues to be my philosophy, and which is not to say that we don't try to expand the audience and get as much reach as possible. But it's funny when I've uploaded a short clip from 2K14 my career to my just my personal account, and it somehow hit the algorithm and got 4,000, 5,000 views, and I'm thinking, I've put together this in the past a great way back Wednesday retrospective that I've on a game that I've really taken time to record this script, and I've tried to perform the script with the voiceover to the best of my ability and pick the right clips and everything, that I put all this effort into this retrospective, and it's got less views than this random dunk that I've uploaded to my personal channel. It's the YouTube algorithm is definitely weird and frustrating at times.
Oh yeah, sometimes like the quick highlights, just like a 30-second clip. Sometimes those can catch fire more so than, like you said, like a deep dive or a retrospective.
Yeah, absolutely. But
right, for my channel, I had that Shaq dunk, right, the alley-oop from my team, where I just absolutely destroyed Gordon Hayward. I uploaded that to my YouTube. It's an 18-second clip, and it got 2,200 views immediately. And then that same Shaq highlight is part of that week top 10, the top 10 for that week. And that top 10 video that has 10 highlights, including that Shaq one, got like 300 views. So you're right, Roger. That's the thing is a lot of people just want a quick fix, right? They want to watch a quick video. And if they see something that's 15 to 30 seconds long or, anything under a minute, sometimes that can blow up a lot faster than something that you put way more thought into.
Yeah, the quick videos are definitely more attractive to the younger audiences, especially if you're putting up 2K23 highlights.
You guys seem to, you played Shootout. I've seen you play the NBA series and whatnot. There's obviously 2Ks that you visited, and I've seen a 2K14 highlight pop up here or there. What keeps you guys going back to NBA Live? You seem to really enjoy those games, Live 2001, Live 2004, Live 2005. What's the draw to those older NBA Live games?
Well, I think it's just we're kind of stuck on the PlayStation 2, so most of our gaming is PS2. We dabble with the PS3 a little bit of PS4, but for the most part, like that mid 2000s era, just I don't know, it gets our juices flowing. We get the most excited to play it, and like I said, just doing something different, like doing mods with rosters, doing different playoffs and seasons, and just doing a lot of different matchups. Keeps us going back to it, and like 01, 04, and 05 have just been kind of the regular rotation lately, and the arcade style of like 04 and 05 where it's fast paced. It's not as much strategy, more just kind of, big plays, highlights, dunks, and stuff like that. That's always fun.
Yeah, I like just the simplicity of the controls. If you know what you want to do, we've been playing it for so often. You know what you want to do, and I think a combination of the old rosters, the nostalgia factors, probably just add to like why we keep playing 05 and 04 and 01.
The PS2 was just a great system. I don't know. We've had the same one for a decade. I mean, things these days aren't built to last 10 years, and our PlayStations are still chugging along. The original controllers, original system, memory card, 8 megabytes.
Also, it feels like not a lot of people play these games, and whenever I try to find footage of people playing those three games, 05, 04, and 01, they're not really that good at it. So I just like...
They're terrible at it, actually.
I hate it, and that's what the newer games. You guys can finish this. But man, the early gameplay and the gameplay that I see uploaded for like NBA 2K23, it's like, and the people that review these games too, it's like, oh my god, what are you guys doing? Like, it just feels like they don't know how to play the game or like don't understand basketball. Like it can drive me nuts.
Yeah, after putting up our content in 04 and 05, and then watching other people play, especially like. Looking for recent videos of 04 and 05. I'm like, we've got to be like the top players who still play this game. Like, no one plays these games as competitively as us, and no one knows like the inside stuff of how the animations work and what to do like we do.
And I think the other thing about those old games, as Derek and I have often championed with retro basketball gaming, is that everything's intact, more or less. I mean, more recent games have lost their live service content, your 2K17, 18, etc., once the service gets shut down. But you go back to early 2000s, mid 2000s. I mean, you may have missed an official roster update that's gone off the hard drive. If for Xbox 360, for example, you may have missed an update here or there. But certainly the early 2000s and PlayStation 2, as you say, such a memorable console, one of the most successful consoles of all time. And the games that came out for that console, I mean, they're not perfect, they have their issues, but man, they're complete. And they're still complete today. If you go back and play them, you're not going to have to worry about, oh, this is gone, oh, this mode is no longer accessible because there's no service for it. You can just enjoy everything that's in the game as it was at the time.
Yeah, and you can go to your local video game stores and pick up, 10 different games for $30.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's
Right.
retro gaming is, I think, there's still a stigma against it, because especially in basketball gaming and sports gaming, why aren't you playing the latest one? But sometimes you want to go revisit the past. Sometimes you don't want to grind and have to deal with the live service content. I mean, I am enjoying 2K23, as I've said on recent shows, as you've probably heard. But I'm looking at some of the goals in the agenda for my team and thinking, you know what, I want to play more casually than this. I don't want to grind and care about getting to level 40 each season. Hats off to anybody who does, but there's an Operation Sports article by Chase this past week where he was talking about a lot of the goals, a lot of the agenda items in both my career and my team. It doesn't feel like any of the developers who set them forth have actually play tested the game to see, is this possible and fun to play these, to try and get these goals in the agenda, because it just seems like adding a checklist to the game. And checklists and goals and everything can be fun, of course, but sometimes it is just about getting on the sticks and playing basketball, either against the CPU or against each other, as you guys do so often, or teaming up against the CPU. Just playing basketball in virtual basketball is where it's at.
Well, you said something. You guys said something last week on the podcast that stuck with me, and you were having a conversation with a younger kid that's grinding, and he said something along the lines of, if you just play 5 or 6 hours a day, you can get your my player up some X number of points. Like, nobody has time to do that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're lucky if we get like 1 or 2 hours in a day of gaming, and these kids are saying, oh, instead of spending hundreds of dollars, just play for 6 hours a day to get this my player up. And that just doesn't sound fun at all. It kind of takes away the joy of and the purity of the game.
It does.
You know what's funny? They're not having fun for those 6 hours either, Roger, because their player isn't good enough to have fun, and that's the way the system is designed. Right? So, like, it's not just saying, hey, play a game. It's not saying play a game that you love and are having fun with for 5 or 6 hours, which, by the way, is still impossible because of people's schedules, especially adults and whatnot. But it's saying play for 5-6 hours a day for weeks or months while you're not having fun, in order to get you to the point where you can have fun. And I think that is something that's not talked about enough. And that's what the beauty of retro gaming, right? You guys go into these games, Live 2001, Live 2004, etc. You know exactly what you're getting into. You know that you can have fun right out of the gate. Nate knows, like he was saying earlier, that he can pick up the sticks and everything makes sense and whatnot. And you're not dealing with that grind. It's a complete game and a complete experience. And I think there's such a benefit and there's such a draw to retro gaming because of that.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I also have a question for you guys, if we have time, real quick. I made a couple teams, Roger and I did, and we wanted to see who you thought would win between Team Andrew and Team Derek.
Ooh.
So,
Ooh, I like this.
We'll start with Team Andrew. At the big man positions, Andrew Bogut and Andrew Bynum. And the wings, Andrew Wiggins and Andrew Toney. And our point guard is Andrew Harrison. And for Team Derek, the bigs are Derek Favors and Derek Coleman. The wings are Derek McKee and Derek Harper. And the point guard is Derek Fisher. So,
I win. Oh,
yeah.
Hold on. Andrew Harrison versus Derek Fisher. Let's get out of here with that. Derek Fisher, clutch, high arcing threes, built like rock. Like, I win with that, just based on the point guard. And I have Coleman. To stretch the floor, put the ball on the floor. I have a power forward who's versatile like that. I mean, Derek Favors is undersized and whatnot, but he's more skilled than Andrew Bogut. So wings-wise, Derek Harper, I mean, he was a big guard and whatnot. He'd be for the time and today and everything. Yeah, I'm sorry, Andrew. I think you would even agree that I win that one.
I'm afraid so. I mean, I don't have Andrew Gaze or Andrew Vlahov, two great Aussie players. Do have Bogut, obviously. I mean, Gaze was a fantastic player. Didn't get as much of a run in the NBA. He would. I think these days he would. It's just the way it was in the 90s. And of course, I don't have the great Andrew DeClercq, the great Celtics center Andrew DeClercq. Yeah. So, I think I do have to. I do have to give it up to the Derricks in this contest.
If you had Yui Blob or Dwayne Shinsius, I might might lean your way.
No love for Eric Washington?
No. But I'm definitely, I feel very confident that we might have to try to find a way to put those teams on the floor, to be honest with you.
That's a mod idea right there. That's a team
with a mod idea right there. And see who really wins, and we can put it on a game that we both enjoy. But no, I love that question, but I definitely feel like I win that one.
There are a lot more Derricks that played in the NBA, because I didn't include Derrick Rose, Derek Anderson, Derek Strong. Like, the Team Derrick definitely has better players, so I tried to make the teams even, but there are not a lot of Andrew guards.
There's not, no.
See, I wanted to give Andrew players that didn't have the name Andrew in it, though. Like, I wanted to give him a little bit of a chance. So, like, Yui Blob and Dwayne Shinsius, if he was able to put those guys on there, maybe he might be able to compete.
Do I get a Team Australia? Like, do I get a Shane Heal to hit threes with, for example?
Oh, would Team Australia be able to compete with me, though? What about all New England team? Like me having an all New England team and you having an all Australia team?
I think that might be the most even, possibly. Yeah.
There's some good stuff.
See, this is the kind of stuff you do with games that's beyond as much fun as I've had with my team, and which, I mean, you can do kind of this stuff with my team as well if the players are there to collect and you open the card packs for them. But be able to put custom teams, especially games that had the custom teams or fantasy teams, like Live 10 does, that you can just put together some crazy rosters. I know you guys do like that with 2001, recreating the 2016 finals, I believe you did, or the 2018 finals with the Warriors and Cavs, and adding some of those players. You know, you don't need to make a whole complete roster. I'm a big fan, as I've said before, of minimalist rosters, minimalist modding, just putting together something fun and playing a few games with it, or a series, or even just the one game. So, no, I'm all about doing something like that.
Oh, Andrew Gowdlock. I mean, if you had Andrew Gowdlock,
there you go.
You might have been able to compete with me. I was just thinking about that. He's an actual, like, video game legend in my house. My brother Mark put up like 60 to 70 points with Andrew Gowdlock. And I want to say it was like NBA 2K11 or 2K12 or something like that. So maybe you might be able to compete with me if you had Gowdlock.
What if I also can take the Andres? Because Andre is also a variant of Andrew. Then I've got Kirilenko, then I've got Andre Miller. Just saying.
Andre Drummond.
That would, well, yeah, Chicago Bulls legend Andre Drummond. Yeah, absolutely.
Andre the Giant. You come in there and set some picks.
Bargnani. Does that count?
Andreas Bargnani.
Andreas,
because yeah.
Andrew Nicholson, Andrew Lang, the great Andrew Lang, of course. Well, we can make this work.
Next time you guys come on, too, I'll have some scenarios for you as well, because I love this. Like, you can tell Andrew and I just got super excited about that. Like, I love, like, fantasy rosters like that, and then, like, putting them up against each other.
New fantasy rosters are just the best. Like, Roger and I both drafted fantasy teams in Live 04 and then Madden 09. It's just so fun picking your own players. I don't know, something about fantasy drafts. I mean, lots of people do it with fantasy drafts and fantasy football, but in video games, it's just as fun.
Well, you can actually do something. You can actually control the action, which is what appeals to me. I'm not big into fantasy sports, but yeah.
Yeah, but you guys heard us talk about it on a prior show, like the way we do fantasy drafts with my brothers and I, where, you know, my brother Mark will always like stack his teams with like 7'6" guys. Like in the past games, like, or like tall guys, like he'll put Sean Bradley and Yao Ming on the same team. And then he'll like have his shooting guard, like Peja Stojakovic or something like that, he's 6'10" and everything. There's so many different fun scenarios when you're drafting teams and so many different moving parts. And it's really fun to do. We still, by the way, every weekend, almost every single weekend, we're doing a fantasy draft on like NBA 2K17 or something.
Nate drafted a team in 2004 recently that had Dikembe Mutombo, Sean Bradley, and Yao Ming. With his intention was to swat as many shots as possible, and it worked out.
Bigs are so valuable.
They move so fast. That's the thing. They move so fast laterally that you don't feel like you're at like a disadvantage a lot of times on the perimeter.
Yeah, 7'6" guys move way quicker in 04 and 05 than they should, for sure.
So I actually had, I think we can move on to this now. I just had 5 quick fire questions for you guys. So first question, you are a GM and can choose between Toronto Hakeem or Supersonics Ewing. Who are you taking?
Probably Toronto Toronto Hakeem, just because I think he's a little bit more skilled of a player as far as like a passer and jump shooter goes. Not that, Ewing was a slouch, but I think Hakeem aged a little better, kept himself in a little bit better shape. So I'd probably lean Hakeem.
I'll say Ewing because he started 79 games for Seattle that year and had a little bit better stats than Hakeem. And then he played another year after that where he played 65 games for Orlando. So I think he still had more in the tank. So I'd go with Ewing.
In a video game, who do you take?
Oh,
Same?
Hakeem.
Yeah, Hakeem would probably have a little bit higher rating. But Ewing, in 2001, you could still get a double-double with Ewing. He was still definitely usable.
Hakeem probably better on defense, though, than Ewing in a video game. Because his stats, 1.5 blocks and a steal a game in Toronto. So
oh, wow.
Yeah, so he'd probably be still good in a video game as defensively.
Andrew, what about you?
Marcus Pfizer. Sorry, what was the question?
They added Marcus Pfizer to NBA 2K23. He's actually part of the game now, which is super interesting to me. But yeah, Toronto Hakeem or Supersonics Ewing.
In a game, I think I would also go with Hakeem, but yes, that's a great point. That Ewing was a little bit healthier. I mean, they were both banged up, they were both past their prime, but Ewing was just a little bit healthier, so I think I'd take him in real life. But definitely the dream in games.
Yeah, how crazy is it that Hakeem actually played with Vince Carter in Toronto? That's wild to me. Next question. Favorite non-basketball video game?
Mine's probably NCAA 14. If we're going in the sports realm, I still play that to this day. I'll do dynasties and stuff with my favorite team, Notre Dame, and it's a game that holds up well and is, in my opinion, better than any like current Maddens that I've played. So definitely NCAA 14.
Right now, for me, probably Madden 09. But in my history, I loved the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1 and 2, Call of Duty Black Ops 1 and 2. Played a lot of that. Those are my favorite shooter games. And the Medal of Honor series, Roger and I both like Medal of Honor. We'll still play that with each other. So, yeah, shooters and football games would probably be our answer for those.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys, co-op wise, outside of sports, is there any games that you guys play semi-regularly?
We play Medal of Honor Rising Sun on PS2. You could play co-op versus the CPU. We'll do like 2 versus 6, where Roger and I will play against like 6 computer bots in Medal of Honor Rising Sun, and that's really fun. So we get to kind of pretend that we're in World War II in Japan, and it's just us in the sewers hunting down Japanese bots. It's really fun.
After the long grind of a basketball game, sometimes you just gotta take the shotguns out and just unload all your frustrations.
Yes, grenades.
Yeah, the art of a well-timed grenade.
That was us with GoldenEye 007, by the way, on N64.
Oh,
that's what my brothers and I played, and we would all huddle in front of the TV and have all 3 controllers hooked up, and we'd be on the split screens and whatnot, and we would just, we'd do different scenarios. Like one of us would have the golden gun and the other 2 couldn't have that, so you'd have to avoid the other person at all costs, because the golden gun would allow you to do a one-shot kill. Andrew, is it Fallout for you for non-basketball?
It's actually Carl Min. I'm just naming 2001 Bulls now. Yeah, it probably is Fallout 3 or New Vegas. It depends on the day, which one I would say is my favorite in the series. I just captured my imagination so much when I first saw that game at my cousin's when I was visiting him and he was playing it. I didn't play Fallout 1 and 2, which makes me a pariah among some of the older Fallout fans who don't like the Bethesda releases. But 3 and New Vegas just put hours into them, multiple playthroughs, multiple characters. I have to give a shout out to Many a True Nerd, John from Many a True Nerd, who does a lot of Fallout content, a lot of wild and wacky builds and really creative concepts that I wish we could do with basketball games, especially with my career. Like make a really weird build, for example, but because of the microtransactions, you can't do that. You can't make some of the creative stuff that you can do with other games with builds and strange character designs that he does. But I really love his content, and I love those games. They really did capture my imagination when I first got into Fallout 3 in 2008.
So the next one is, who is better at throwing it down, in video games, Nate or Roger? And the reason why I ask this is I feel like Roger is almost like the buzzer shot king based on the highlights that get sent to me. But then Nate has more explosive dunks. Tell me I'm wrong.
I think that's probably the trend. I think it's pretty even. I don't know. What do you think?
We both have our fair share of buzzer beaters. I might have a couple more ridiculous shots like recently. But like we're always both like going for dunks. We're definitely like both going for highlights. Nate's a little better at manipulating games and finding, BS that works in his favor, especially in like 2001. But yeah, I guess I could agree with that assessment.
Yeah, Roger probably has more buzzer beaters, and Roger just seems to have more big plays. Maybe they're just because they're fewer and far between.
My plays mean more.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's a really good observation, though. I've never thought about that.
Who hit the buzzer beater with Matt Bullard that won the game? Was it Nate or Roger?
That was me.
That was Roger. Yeah, Roger.
That's what I thought. Yep.
Yeah, he had the Chris Webber 30-footer recently,
Mm-hmm.
and the Andre Miller one is huge.
The one you had in 2004 with Toronto, where it was with Alvin Williams, where you faded away, made a bunch of terrible passes that were deflected, and then made a fadeaway as the buzzer was going off.
Too.
The quick release fadeaway contested three off of some bad passes. That was that was probably the highlight of the year there.
I definitely get
My brother and I were dying. My brother and I were dying watching that. We watched it over and over again, and we were laughing. It was the worst play.
It was so bad. It was so bad. That's
really good defense.
Yeah. I'm the king of playing defense for 23 and a half seconds and then just getting torched.
Yeah. Roger, I get more buzzer beaters on shot clocks, but Roger gets more end of game, end of quarter buzzer beaters. I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll take that.
So the next one would be is who's better at basketball in real life?
Well, right now I am. I think in our history, Roger had an extended period of time where he was better because he was a really good shooter when he played.
Yeah, when before the Achilles injury, I had a really good post game and I was a good shooter, and so Nate was more athletic and he could dunk and stuff. But if we played 1-on-1, I would probably win like 6 or 7 times out of 10 just from the 3-point shooting alone.
Yeah, you're a better. You're probably your prime. You're better at scoring than I've ever been in my life. Just because it's hard for me to score. You're a better shooter, and I'm a low percentage shooter.
Yeah,
but I shoot.
Yeah, I would definitely let you shoot when we would play like 1-on-1. So in like having a post game, my specialty shot was like a low post hook shot, and I could do it with the right or the left hand, which was like super hard to defend. So that was in my prime. That was like my go-to move, along with mid-range and 3-point shots.
You were definitely better on offense and solid on defense, but I was definitely a better dribbler and more athletic and
for sure
better at defense.
Yeah,
and
which is why we worked well together when we played in like rec leagues and stuff.
Yeah, those are really fun.
Yeah.
Roger being good at hooks reminds me of why you guys love going to that little half hook in NBA Live 2001.
I may have learned it from playing 01. I was like, I got to replicate this in real life.
Yeah, people can't block this shot. I better start learning how to do it.
No.
If you guys had to compare your shooting forms to a player in the NBA, past or present, who would you say you shot the most like?
From what I remember from Roger's shot is that it was kind of more on the side of his head by his shoulder. So not really a high release, but he had like a middle release. Can't think of anyone who you shot like though.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. Yours reminds me of Michael Kidd Gilchrist a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, that's not good. That's not good.
I'm just kidding.
My release is higher for sure.
Your release is longer. It takes a little longer for you to get a shot off, I feel like.
Yeah, my release is longer than yours, definitely.
I did a lot.
I always picture Roger like Eddie House. That's the way I picture Roger shooting a basketball for some reason.
Yeah, Roger, he kind of shot it the side of his head, like near his shoulder, from what I remember. And it was quick, and he didn't jump a lot when he shot. It was really quick. So it was super hard to block in 1-on-1 when we would play.
Yeah, I did a lot of catch and shoot when we play like rec leagues and stuff.
Andrew, what about yours?
That's a good question. I kind of held it a bit high. Probably a bit of an Antoine Walker, maybe.
Were you a gunslinger like Antoine, though? You just fire it up.
No, not quite with the same reckless abandon, but no, I put up some threes in my day playing in the local league. Yeah,
As long as you shot free throws better than Antoine Walker.
Now, Nate, you still play in leagues and whatnot. I think I've seen some of the highlights and whatnot. Does your experience on the virtual hardwood ever affect the way you play in real life?
Very minimally, I would say. In the rec league that I play with, it's just with friends from high school and who I've met over the years. And our team, now that we're all in our 30s, we're not as good as we used to be. So we just do basic stuff like a post up and a pick and roll. Whenever I bring the ball up, I always try to get something easy for my teammates. Like I know what my teammates can do. I'll try to get the big guys the ball in the post. I'll try to get the big guys in a pick and roll or look for the shooters. And I just basically run my rec team like I run my Live 01 team, I guess. Like I'm in charge. I know how to get people points, and that's how we do it.
Yeah, I think I've played against you. Actually, you and I played multiple different games, and you definitely use strategy and you definitely use pick and rolls. And I see you calling plays when we were playing NBA Live 2004 and switching up defenses and whatnot. And what I was going to say earlier, actually, when we were on the topic, is it was really fun to play against you. And it's because, like, it's easy to tell that you know the game. Both of you guys know the game. I can tell by watching your videos. But playing against you, Nate, you know the players, you know their strengths, and you understand the game of basketball. And I think that Andrew can attest to this. Those are the best people to play with or against. And unfortunately, in the online scene and whatnot, in NBA 2K23 and some of the recent 2Ks as well, it's become so toxic. And at the same time, while it's been toxic on the mic and whatnot and the way people act, there's not a really good understanding for the game of basketball.
Yeah, there's definitely more to basketball than just like dunking and 3-point shooting. And you got to call plays. You got to run some sort of offense. I mean, you're still allowed to shoot mid-range shots with good shooters, and that's kind of a lost art in today's game.
Having a strategy whenever you play basketball, whether online or in a video game or in person, having a strategy is so important if you want to win. And it makes the game more fun because you have some structure. So when things get tough, when you're on the opposite end of a 10-0 run, you could calm down and run something that'll get you a point.
That is something that's definitely missing from the online scene, is that people get down by 4 points in the first minute and they start selling, as they call it. They start throwing the game or they're quitting the game. And I'm thinking, where's the competitive spirit?
Yeah, it's tough to battle back when you're down, but also it makes better games just being able to fight back. It makes the game more intense. Like coming back is tough and it's frustrating, but if you can do that, it's better than winning by a blowout.
Yeah, a comeback win is definitely more satisfying than like a 30-point blowout.
It gets your blood pumping and your heart beating more. Like those comeback wins where one of us will have the lead all game and then the other person comes back and the last 5 minutes is really tense. Like those are the best games, definitely.
Derek, I'm thinking about our Game of Life 2001 PC with my 1996 season mod, where we went up against the Bucks. Was it double overtime, triple overtime, but we finally managed to put them away?
It went to double overtime.
Yeah.
I ended up hitting a game winner with Tony Kukoc, which obviously pissed Virtual Pippin off and whatnot. But that game, we were down for most of the game, I want to say, and we had to battle back and get it into overtime and then the second overtime and whatnot, and we won, and that was super satisfying. I also remember a few games on NBA Jam on Fire Edition where we got down early on a gold challenge, even up to double digits, and then we ended up coming back and winning, and those are always the best. And hey, remember the early 2000 Celtics in 01-02, they were down against the New Jersey Nets by 20 plus points in real life and in the playoffs, and then they ended up coming back, one of the greatest comebacks in playoff history, and they won that game, and that was super, super exciting because they fought hard and came back. So I definitely agree with that. Nate, Roger, I have a question for you folks. So you guys mentioned that, because Andrew and I are always looking for feedback, and what we could do better with the NLSC and whatnot. You mentioned, you'd like to hear us on the mic, maybe even see our faces and whatnot on some of the videos. What would you like to see more out of the NLSC outside of that? Is there any specific games you'd like to see us play, revisit, upload, any different, type of gameplay videos, etc.?
Apart from Live 07.
Apart from Live 07, exactly, because we know you guys must love Live 07 for the 360 as much as we do.
I'd like to get like a game of Andrew's My Player. I don't know if you have one on the YouTube page yet or not, but I'd just like to see how Andrew, I've seen his highlights, they're awesome, but just how the day-to-day of how he plays a My Player game would be interesting to me.
Like a full game?
And yeah, a full game, or just a little 5-10 minute highlight video would be fine too, just of a game.
Sure.
But that would be interesting to me. And like I said, just hearing your guys' thought process while you're playing the game is what interests me. And any of the live 01 to 06 are pretty cool too to watch.
Yeah, we've been playing a lot of we'll do an all-star game for 04 or 05, and that's always fun. And just basically any games that we're kind of into of the live series would be fun. So you guys go head to head or co-op, preferably head to head.
Did you guys like that live 2003 all-star game that Andrew and I teamed up on? Did you guys watch those highlights?
Yeah, was that the one where Jordan dunked it from the free throw line?
No, that was a different one. No, this was live 2003 for the we were playing on, I want to say it was the PC version of it. We were using that zoomed out camera view. And Tracy McGrady had a huge game, some really big dunks. One from Andrew, I want to say, that made it into the top 10 plays of the week. But the one where Jordan dunked from the free throw line, that was, I want to say, just Andrew playing solo.
Yes.
And he submitted that highlight for the top 10. And he did like a couple of those, I want to say, within the first minute of the game. And he just submitted one of them. It's really easy to take off from the foul line in that game.
It really is, yeah. No, I was capturing some screenshots for an article, and I wanted to get a free throw line dunk in there. And then I was recording the footage as well at the same time. And I thought, oh, you know what? I'll send it along to Derek. I feel it's my cheat code with you, Derek, is sending an MJ highlight or a D Brown highlight.
Yeah, he knows he has a very high chance of getting into the top 10 if he sends me an MJ or D Brown highlight. He knows that.
Those 03 blocks that you had on jump shots that went into the backcourt were hilarious.
Yeah, very, very arcade leaning 2003. I have mixed feelings about it, but I've actually warmed up. I really liked it at the start. Then I was frustrated with how it wasn't as sim as I liked. And then in the years since that I've had other games that really scratched that sim itch, I've actually appreciated 2003 a lot more. Even the courtside comedy cutscenes, which I've often railed against, I do actually have an appreciation for them because some of them are just so corny, so cheesy that it's fun. You can't take it too seriously. So I've come around a little bit on that. So I guess that's brought us to the end of the show, and thank you guys for coming back on again and talking to us and doing this second show. It's always great to have repeat guests on the NLSC podcast, and we love your content and your enthusiasm for NBA Live 2001 matches our retro gaming habits as well. So thanks for coming back on.
Thanks for having us. We'll always be listening to the podcast and watching the videos. Just love to hear you guys talk about basketball.
Yeah, I do look forward to listening to this every Sunday. Since the first time we were on, we have listened every week religiously. So we do appreciate you guys, and keep grinding.
Thank you. Yeah, we this isn't stopping anytime soon. The top 10 plays of the week, Andrew's articles, everything's just going to continue because we love what we do. We love your content as well. We'll be checking out your YouTube and IG and everything. And we appreciate it.
Anything you want to plug before we wrap up here?
We're a little more active on the YouTube channel. NBA Live 2001 Legends and NBA Live 2001 Highlights on Instagram are the two handles we use. So yeah, check those out.
Live 01 Legends.
Live 01 Legends.
Excellent. And just as we wrap up here, we were talking about this off the air before we started recording, and you hit me with a fantastic impression. Can I hear one last time your Australian accent?
Well, NBA Live 2003 was a very controversial release.
Of course, I like to play with Andrew Bogut, a fellow Aussie, and Matthew Dellavedova, of course, rounding up the points.
That did go a little bit British at the end there, but I do appreciate the
it was
effort.
Pretty good. It's better than I would have been able to do. I appreciated that.
how you gonna win.
So once again, thank you to Nate and Roger. What a fun time, Derek.
Oh, they're awesome, right? I mean, they have a lot of the same, background with their gaming experiences as we do, and the games that they enjoy and whatnot, and they love sharing that footage with the world, via their YouTube channel and their IG and whatnot. And it's really cool to see them, posting those videos and even being on video each week and on the mic and whatnot, and seeing how much they're enjoying these games. Retro gaming, I think you would agree, is alive and well. And I feel like it's actually gaining more popularity recently and whatnot, and more people are gravitating to some of those older titles. So definitely awesome. And I love that we had them on the show again.
I love anyone who will help us get rid of the stigma against retro gaming, because it's fun. It's fun to go back and visit old favorites. People go back and watch old movies, old TV shows. People love to binge their old shows. It's comfort food. So yeah, I love it. You and I are both big fans of retro gaming, and as are Nate and Roger. So I just love to see their content, and we'll keep checking it out.
Absolutely.
But with that being said, that has brought us to the end of this week's show. As always, we thank you for tuning in and invite you to join us again next week, either on the NLSC, maybe-live.com, our YouTube channel, or your podcast app of choice. In the meantime, please connect with us on social media. That's where you can get in touch with us, and of course, stay up to date with all of our content. To that end, Derek, I'll throw over to you to promote your handles.
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at D4384 and at D43G. That's the platform I'm most active on. I'm also on YouTube, D43, and then on the NLSC, D43.
I am Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on Twitter. The NLSC is on Twitter and Facebook at the NLSC. Our Instagram is NLSC Basketball. Our aforementioned YouTube channel is youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. And of course, keep a look to the NLSC itself, nb-live.com, for everything we do for basketball video games. So, thank you once again for tuning in, and until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone.